This week, our guest comes from the National Center for Transportation Studies of the University of the Philippines to give us insights into the present system of licensing drivers, which have been pointed to as one of the possible causes of having unskilled and undisciplined drivers. Please welcome Dr. Jose Regidor. Hello, Dr. Regidor, and welcome to Motoring Today.
Hello, Butch, and to all the viewers of Motoring Today.
It is no secret that road crashes are one of the major reasons of death in the country, and you've mentioned on reports that this is usually attributed to the weak licensing system in the country. Please tell us, what in the system do you think is weak?
Well, what I think is weak in the system is the examinations that are currently being given by the Land Transportation Office. There are two parts of that exam. One is the written part and the other one is the practical part. So for both of these parts, there are weaknesses in terms of how applicants are able to pass the exams. For the written exams, there are allegations that it's too easy. There are also allegations that they're able to get the answers. And for the practical exam, they also say that it can be so easy, or in certain cases, they're able to be exempted from taking the practical exam.
Currently, there are three types of driver's licenses in the country, namely student permit, non-professional, and professional driver's licenses. In your opinion, is there really a need to have the first option, the student permit?
I think the student permit is still important. It's still important for us because we need to have that stage for those who are prospective drivers to be able to learn the right way, the safe way of driving, and that should be with the guidance of someone who already has a valid non-professional or professional driver's license. So there is that requirement for the student permit, that the student may not be able to drive a car without someone with them who has a valid non-professional or professional driver's license. So I think that's something that we should retain. But then probably we should also try to find ways to be able to determine if this rule is being followed.
Now, an applicant can only apply for a non-professional driver's license after a month of acquiring his or her student permit, and 6 months after for a professional driver's license. What is your stand with this practice?
I think, well, considering that the time frame that is provided there before you can get a non-pro license or even a professional driver's license, there should be enough time if the applicant or the prospective driver really practices or trains. So that's enough time for him or her to be able to get the training and the skills for safe driving.
Some of the issues on the written exams for driver's license applicants include what is being said that it's either too easy or readily available for a price, and questions are general and basic. There are plans now to update them and to make it more vehicle specific. How would you address this issue?
I think making the licenses, particularly the professional driver's licenses, vehicle specific would be the right direction to go to. The reason for that is because we know for a fact that, for example, trucks require different skills, require different handling, and you have a different type of responsibility when you're driving large vehicles like trucks and buses. So perhaps we should take a look at the courses, for example, that are being implemented or being provided by TESDA. We all know that, for example, someone wants to drive abroad, wants to work abroad as a driver. They usually go to TESDA to get a certain certification. So TESDA has that. And so that begs the question, why can't we have that for local drivers as well. No? So if you want to drive a bus for a living, if you want to drive a truck for a living, then probably you should be able to get the proper certifications for that. No? And perhaps that can also be the basis for a new type of driver's license for these types of vehicles. And the same goes for other heavy equipment. Like for example, you want to drive a bulldozer, operate a payloader. No? So that those vehicles also require different skills. For motorcycles, I'm not so sure, but perhaps it might be also important to take a look into that, because some people might be experienced motorcycle riders, but are not qualified to drive cars, for example, no? Or vice versa. Some may be able to drive a car, but they're not necessarily skilled as motorcycle riders. So maybe there's also an opportunity there to explore if it's possible to have a different license for motorcycle riders compared with the current non-professional and professional driver's licenses.
Now, on the other hand, the government does not have enough facilities for the practical tests being given to the applicants. What do you think will be the best solution for this?
Well, we can try to explore other options for that. Like for example, when we say facilities, maybe LTO does not have enough vehicles to use for practical tests. So that can be addressed probably by utilizing the vehicle that is supposed to be driven by the applicant. Another option is maybe to look for partnerships among, let's say for example, our driving schools. So the driving schools have fleets of vehicles at their disposal. So why can't LTO, for example, have a cooperative agreement with some of the, maybe the larger driving schools, accredit them, and conduct the practical tests through them. Anyway, the LTO should be providing the staff who would perform the examination on the applicant, no? Whether it's for the non-professional driver's license or the professional driver's license.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Regidor. Before we end, do you have any message to our viewers?
Maybe as a last message for the written exam, I think one issue there is that it's still a written exam. No? So I think there's another way of conducting it, and it is a stricter way of conducting it, and it is maybe by computerizing the examination and making some of the questions randomly generated. This is already done in many countries, including Canada, including the United States, and it's very difficult to cheat on those kinds of examinations. So I think that's a direction that LTO should look into, considering that it's not so expensive these days probably to come up with a automated, randomly generated examination. No.
Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, Butch, and happy motoring.
That was Dr. Jose Regidor with insights into our present system of issuing driver's licenses. Our guest this week on Motoring Today's Motoring Forum, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.